Welcome back to Kenton and Habiba. My name is Habiba, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. But before we get started, I just want you to know I was really reluctant to put out this video, but I'm hoping it will help someone. Anyway, I am happily married. We live in North Carolina. We have 3 beautiful children, and we are actually empty nesters. I'm a bit of a foodie. I love to cook. I love to entertain. I love my family. I absolutely adore my family. We are a multicultural family, African, Caribbean, Asian, and yeah, it's a beautiful life. Like I said, foodie. I also love gardening, flowers, nature. I love hair, makeup, all that girly stuff. And I love making things by hand. So this is something I made a few years ago. This is some sugar flowers I made from scratch, hand painted, all edible. I love thrifting. If you guys have been watching me for a while, you know I love thrifting and I love making things. So we all have different sides to us, and I think one side that I've been blessed with is I'm pretty crafty, pretty artistic, and I'd like to think that I'm not just a pretty face and all that superficial stuff. But I also would say I'm fairly intelligent. I was educated at Cornell, at FGC. I went to medical school in Charleston, South Carolina, residency in New York. I've been practicing medicine for over 20 years. I can't believe it. And I made a conscious decision to stop clinical practice so that I could pursue my creative interest and also focus on my mental and physical health, which I have been blessed to be able to do. So that was me getting ready for my colonoscopy. Yes. Thankfully, everything was okay with my screening colonoscopy. I also got my screening mammogram and all my other health maintenance tests, like also going to the dentist. But the point is that just like you, despite my medical education and common sense, I have some legitimate fears. And one of my fears was about the COVID vaccine and everything that's been going on. Now, I know what I'm about to say might be surprising and maybe even disappointing to some of you guys, but this is my truth. I just want you to hear me out. So for the longest time, I really have been adamant that I did not want to take the COVID-19 vaccine. I was very fearful. I was just unsure. And despite what was going on in the world, I just felt like this vaccine was not something I was willing to take. Now, as a medical provider or as someone with a medical education, I am definitely not an anti-vaxxer. I strongly believe in vaccines and immunizations and modern medicine. Safety of the vaccine was a significant concern. I was very fearful given the fact that the trials were not as long as they used to be or have been in the past. And I understand this is a different time and that millions of people have taken the vaccine fine, including my children. Each of them made the decision on their own to take the vaccine, but I still didn't want it. Like you, I see the news on television, I read the papers, I see the magazines, I read the stories on social media about the unvaccinated people and all the horrific things that are happening, and it's literally terrifying. And of course, there were the people who died shortly after taking the COVID-19 vaccine. Of course, these numbers are very small and very rare, but I still found it very worrisome because who is to say that I wouldn't have a negative response to the vaccine? These were some of my fears, and I know some of you might think they are irrational coming from someone who was educated and fairly healthy. As a husband and as a partner, what were your feelings, or what have been your feelings about me not wanting the vaccine or not getting the vaccine when you or the kids did?
Well, I mean, it's a balancing act, you know. It's about, I'm always worried and concerned. I care about your health and your well-being, but then I have to also respect your individual rights and choices, you know, as a as a independent individual. So that's the balance. So so I have to walk that values. So so it's been a challenge. So it's like the worry, and also doing everything also on my part to make sure that you aren't exposed inadvertently to COVID. Because I do go to school. I do have classes on site and stuff like that. So so those are the things. Plus, going to the grocery. So I always make sure that I'm still double masked and performing all these.
So you were vaccinated
Twice.
Yeah, a while back.
After
Did you
school.
have any concerns or fears or
Well, everything has risks. I mean, it's naive to think there's no risk. It's just like even a flu shot has risks. So,
right?
again, it's balancing, those things, and but ultimately, again, it's it's each person's ultimate decision. Even with our kids, is that they did their research and stuff, and they made their own decisions.
So you didn't feel that as my spouse or husband, I needed to do exactly what you were doing,
Oh,
or I was obligated.
Well, see, I advise, and we talked about it, but ultimately you have to come to your determination. I did what I had to do for my part to be as effectively as possible. So I self quarantine as necessary. I work remote. I practiced the health measures. I double mask. I maintain distance. I acted as if I wasn't vaccinated. Yeah, and then ultimately, I again, just balancing those value systems that you as a functioning adult will make your own determination. It's tough. I mean, again, if your decisions are informed and it's balanced judiciously with risk, because that's what we all engage in, is risk benefit analysis. It's like how much of a risk tolerance that we can do, at the same time minimize exposure to liability. I mean, that's the technical way, but we balance that. Just like when you go out to a store, there's a risk when you drive, when you fly, whatever, and you're trying to minimize that risk. The thing is, though, if you're not taking it because it's some belief that they're putting chips in people's bodies, or just some stuff that substantially you cannot prove, then that's a flaw in logic, and it's kind of like now it's because if you have a high risk medical condition that could lead to severe adverse reactions, then that's something to consider on a case by case basis. So that's why it's not one size fits all.
Do no harm, do no harm. That's all I thought about. Here I was, healthy. I haven't been sick for almost 2 years with a viral infection. I've been eating the right things. I've been following Dr. Oz's plan, getting enough sleep, eating the right things, taking my vitamins, trying to exercise, trying to see the doctor. Why do I want to complicate something by taking what I felt was almost a poison? God, I know that sounds ignorant, but this is how I felt. I was also convinced that I'd had COVID almost 2 years ago before everyone knew what COVID was. And didn't I have an immunity? But the studies suggested that the immunity you had after getting the infection would wane after about 3 months, and that your system wasn't strong enough to fight an infection and would be stronger if you had the vaccine. You would have more antibodies to protect you. And of course, there was the Delta variant, which was scary. Of course, I think about my fellow peers and doctors that are suffering from burnout, traumatized by all the horrible things they were seeing, their mental health suffering, overwhelmed, depressed, overcrowded hospitals, no beds in the ICU. Right now, there's nothing scarier than landing in the ICU, or worse yet, dying in the ICU. I thought about my son Khalid at the NIH. He has taken Pfizer vaccine and he's been fine. I thought about our desire to travel. I miss New York. I really miss having friends and having social events. And I've always been an outgoing, sociable kind of person, and I just really miss that. And I know things will never be quite the same because of the pandemic. But I finally decided I was going to take the vaccine if I could just get over my fear and anxiety. So I decided to check my blood pressure. I think I was just looking for an excuse not to take this vaccine that day. I just was so worked up and I felt like my blood pressure was high. So why not check it first? I told myself that if my pressure was high, I wouldn't go take the vaccine that day. Okay, still not bad. My heart rate seems to have gone down some, so that's good. God, I hope this is a good sign that I should take it. I don't know, y'all. I know it makes no goddamn sense that I'm a doctor. My entire family has taken the vaccine at different times, and I am terrified. So systolic 122, diastolic 93. Again, this is higher than it should be, but keep in mind I've already squeezed my arm, or my arm has already been squeezed, which tends to make the number a little bit higher. When you repeat your blood pressure on the same arm, you're generally going to get a higher number every time you repeat it. So it's ideal to wait or use a different arm, which I didn't. But importantly, my heart rate 74 is better, and my diastolic definitely is higher than it should be. But again, this is a repeat, so I prayed, and the next morning we went to Walgreens and I got the shot. Okay, so I just had my first shot of COVID, or COVID vaccine. God forbid, first shot of COVID vaccine. And I hope everything goes okay. Usually you're supposed to wait, 15 minutes. It is a working day, and so Kenton has to go back to work, and I guess I felt well enough to just get up and go. So anyway, yeah, it stung a little bit just going in. Now, from what I remember with the children, it took about, or at least with Kareem, it took about an hour for him to be apparently feeling baddish or tired. So we'll see. My plan is to perhaps have some breakfast, maybe something light, and then go to sleep, go to bed, because I was so anxious last night. I couldn't sleep. I literally may have slept an hour because I was just so anxious and had insomnia. I was tossing and turning, and it was horrible, absolutely horrible. And it doesn't make sense, but I just have a lot of fear. It wasn't something that felt natural to me, but in the end, I guess it is the safest thing to do, especially if you're going out of town, or there's the risk of you being in contact with a lot of people. And all the other reasons that we have all seen in the news, the devastating stories of people getting COVID who are unvaccinated. So despite my fears, we went and I got it. So, and I got stickers like a child too. I came home and decided to eat, but I'm trying to do really healthy food. So this is steamed asparagus. And over here, anything that I would fry, I decided to boil. It's a boiled egg and boiled plantain. Doesn't look as good as the fried, but it's healthier. And then over here I have some spice with a little bit of curry. And I'm going to add some large portobello mushrooms. and some more vegetables. So a kind of healthy early breakfast slash, well, late breakfast slash brunch. See, it's only 10 a.m. And I'm also gonna add some squash. Nicely saute that just like you would meat. So far so good. My hand or arm feels fine, thankfully. But yeah, I don't know. I've been so scared. I know all of us are scared, and I'm not here to pass judgment about what your choices are. And hopefully you can understand or relate without making me feel too bad, I guess, about my choice either way. And when you fry this up or add heat to it, it just gives it a nice little kick. You know, get that little peppery, but also a little sweet. So I got my plate there. That's for Kenton. And I kind of overcooked the mushrooms a little bit, but it smells so good. Smells so good. That's it. I was really tired. This was literally about an hour after I'd had the vaccine, and I was exhausted, sleep deprived. I had a mild headache, but I attributed the headache to my sleep deprivation rather than the vaccine. I was relieved. I was genuinely relieved and happy that nothing horrible had happened. See, all along, it wasn't the injection that I was afraid of. No, I'm not afraid of injections. I've given myself injections. I've given patients injections. No big deal. I was afraid of the contents of the injection, the vaccine itself. I just was so mistrusting. And what I realized is that I needed to let go and just let God pray on it. I prayed hard on it, and I felt that, God was not done with me. God was not done with me, and everything was going to be okay. I'm only human. Yes, to some of you this might seem totally over the top, irrational, overly dramatic. I get it, but I'm just sharing my honest feelings. Fast forward to a couple of weekends ago, we took a trip to Savannah, Georgia. And this was one of the reasons I was so motivated to take the vaccine, because I really wanted to attend this wedding, my friend's wedding, and it was the most beautiful, magical trip we have taken since the pandemic started. I can't wait to share it with you guys soon. And we're on our way back to North Carolina. We had such a great time, and I absolutely miss traveling. I can't wait to go somewhere again. Oh my God, it was just so good to be around people, y'all. It was so good. I've had some time to reflect on, taking the vaccine and whether it was the right choice or not. I know that for me, it was the right choice, and, I had waited literally months. This vaccine has been available for months, and I didn't take it, and I was convinced I wasn't going to take it. But with everything that I've shared with you earlier, I felt eventually it was the right choice. I have no regrets. In fact, I'm really surprised that everything was so normal. Like, I really didn't have any serious or significant symptoms or adverse events. Besides the mild headache I shared with you, that was it. And I really think that headache I would have had, because I often have headaches if I don't get enough sleep or if my blood pressure is too high. And in this case, my blood pressure that day was fine. It was really because I hadn't gotten enough sleep. Overall, I have no regrets. This video was not intended to convince you to do something that you don't think is the right thing for you. This video is intended just to share my experience and hopefully help someone. Maybe you're on the fence about taking the vaccine. I understand. It's really simply to let you know that I understand, and that I hope you understand me, and that not every doctor thinks the same, and that we're human beings. We also have fears, we have families, we have insecurities, and I am just as human, just like you are. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you share it with someone that you think might find it of use, or, find it inspiring, or maybe find it surprisingly disappointing. I don't know. But I really appreciate you guys watching, and God bless from wherever you are, and have a wonderful week ahead. Bye. I'll see you soon. Bye.